Oh, good. The microphone is set for the tall people. I'm going to mess it up for him now. Good evening. I'm Pat Thomas. I teach health and medical journalism at the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication, and I co-organize this symposium every year with my good friend Dan Colley, who is the director of the Center for Tropical and Emerging Global Diseases. And Dan is also a superstar in the world of schistosomiasis research, and in fact he is spearheading a global program to try to use simple, cheap drugs to control the spread of this dreadful disease. And toward that end, he is in Zanzibar, where probably the weather is nicer. I'm just guessing. But at any rate, he can't be here, and he sends his regrets. This is the 6th season of the Global Diseases Voices from the Vanguard lecture series, and we'll have 3 more lectures this year. Look at the back of your program for the schedule. We hope you'll join us for as many of these as you possibly can. And as for all of the lectures, there's free food and refreshments and a chance to talk with our speaker immediately following, next door in Demosthenian Hall. You may get a little damp going over there, but it will be worthwhile. So I'm going to turn the program over now to another of my UGA colleagues from the science part of campus, Rick Tarleton, who has a new title, the UGA Athletic Association Distinguished Professor of Biological Sciences, which is even longer than my title. So, Rick, he will introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Pat. That should work for me. So, as Pat said, I'm pinch hitting for Dan Colley today. Sorry he could not be here, but I'm very pleased to be able to introduce Bill Petri to you today, and appreciate you coming out to hear him speak. Bill comes to us from the University of Virginia, where he is the Wade Hampton Frost Professor of Medicine. It's a more distinguished title than I have, I think. Sorry. And the chief of the Division of Infectious Diseases and International Health there. Bill does a lot of things, and he does a lot of things quite well. He's a practicing physician, an internist with expertise in infectious diseases. In 2009, he was named one of the best doctors in the U.S. He's also an outstanding teacher and mentor, the head and the originator of a number of training programs, including the biodefense training program at the University of University of Virginia. And he also promotes and directs a number of undergraduate programs there for minority undergraduate researchers. And in 2010, he was named the Distinguished Mentor Award from the Department of Biology at the University of Virginia. So a mentor, a teacher, a physician, and an outstanding researcher, and that's mostly what we're going to hear about today. He's a world expert in Entamoeba histolytica, a major parasitic cause of diarrhea. Diarrheal diseases are responsible for millions of deaths every year, mostly in children under the age of 5. Bill's work has impacted Entamoeba histolytica and has extended more recently to infectious diseases in general and diarrheal diseases, and now even more recently into malnutrition in general, and not only its effect in terms of mortality, but also morbidity in childhood development, intellectual development, cognitive and physical development. So he's made a great impact sort of around the scope of things educationally as a practicing physician and as a researcher. And as you can no doubt tell, Bill's one of the hardest working people you might imagine. He's certainly one of the hardest working people I know. And when I think of individuals who really put their heart and soul into their work, Bill's the first guy who comes to mind. He's also a very, very dedicated father and family guy, has a large family that he dotes over quite a bit. And I personally owe Bill a debt of gratitude for taking one of my children under his wing when she was at the University of Virginia, introducing her to field research in Bangladesh and setting her off on her career as a academic physician. So it's great to have Bill here. It's a great honor to have him come and talk, and I'm sure everybody will appreciate his insights. And the title of his talk, Malnutrition, Genes, Vaccines, and Means to Intervene. Thanks very much for coming, Bill.
I want to thank Pat and Rick for those kind introductions. And I can't say how meaningful it is for me to be at the University of Georgia. Rick and I have been colleagues and friends for 2 decades now, and I started admiring his science, the classical work that he did showing the role of CD8 T cells in Chagas disease immunity, and then had the opportunity to work with his very gifted daughter when she was an undergraduate student at the University of Virginia. It's also very meaningful for me to be here because you should be proud in Athens of really having one of the best places in the world to study tropical diseases. And I think especially within parasitology, I can't think of an institution that is at the level of the University of Georgia. So congratulations for that. And also thank you for coming out in the rain to hear me speak today. Dan Colley told me that part of this was to show you kind of like how I got to where I am studying tropical diseases, and so I took Dan very literally here, and so I'll show you some of my childhood pictures. I was born in Washington, D.C., again, a long time ago now, and our first big travel, and I think this really sort of influenced me, and I've tried to do this with my kids, is to bring them overseas, is living in another country, I think, opened my eyes. We also had like a very overachieving older sister, Michelle, and I think that all the rest of us all tried to sort of keep up with Michelle with all of her academic achievements, and so that also had a big influence on me growing up. And obviously at Stonehenge. I think like a lot of people, remember, I always try to make my lab open to student researchers, and this is me back in 1971 at the NIH, where there was a program run by a chemistry professor at American University that put students in the labs. And my older sister did this, I did this, my younger sister did this, and we all ended up in academic medicine. And of course, I think that's the way that you really understand how science works, is that when you're there in the lab surrounded by other scientists. I did an MD PhD program at the University of Virginia, and I was introduced to microbiology by the late Bob Wagner, working on a virus that's very similar to rabies virus, and then was exposed to tropical medicine by 2 of the professors there, and I think that was really quite compelling to me. That here's a whole area of scientific investigation where there's like tremendous potential and very few people working on it for the magnitude of the problem. I met my wife, Mary Ann, in medical school at Virginia, and she's been just a huge supporter of everything that I've done ever since then. 3 men that are very, very important in my life. This is my late mentor, Bob Wagner, my dad, and Lionel Poirier, who I worked with in that summer research program at NIH back in 1971, all of them at our wedding in 1982. The only time I wasn't in Charlottesville was to do medicine residency at Case Western, and again, the chair of medicine there was Chuck Carpenter, who was a leading figure in studying cholera in Bangladesh and India in the 1960s. So again, sort of like a tropical medicine theme. And then students start to become part of the picture as I'm now no longer a student but a member of the faculty, and these are my first 2 graduate students at Woods Hole, where there's a molecular parasitology meeting every summer. And here with my son David and with Jessica Tarleton in Bangladesh, where I've been fortunate enough to work for about the last 20 years. So, and a picture of me much younger with the staff in Bangladesh. I always feel out of proportion like that. I'm like 3 feet taller than everybody else when I'm in Bangladesh. sort of stand out. I think when you're in science for a long time, you have career-long colleagues, and I've been. Barbara Mann has not only been a colleague for me scientifically, but she introduced me to my wife, and so I owe her tremendous amounts of thing. And another career-long colleague is Rashidul Haq, who actually initiated the collaboration in Bangladesh. That I'll tell you a little bit about some of the work. And here's a picture of us years ago, and then a more recent photograph out of Dhaka, right near our field site. The real pleasure of being a teacher is seeing your students succeed and go on to do great things. And it's one of the things that's very meaningful for me to be here with Jessica Tarleton today, and so many other students who have gone on to do great things. That is the reward of being a teacher, is just that. We have teams of investigators too. That science is best done by many people bringing in independent ideas and expertise and techniques, and we have a very talented team of investigators in Bangladesh. And so I'm going to Bangladesh tonight, but the study there runs really under the direction of the Bengalis. I'm there sort of to hear their thoughts and go over their data and to help, but it's really the study is run not by me, but by the team in Dhaka. And then another wonderful group of students and fellows and faculty at the University of Virginia. It's really just absolute pleasure to be able to work with. And then the team at home, and so this is my 5 children. This is just this Christmas. And then Mary Ann and I also at Christmas. I was telling Jessica, it'll be 29 years that we've been married this May. We got married the week after medical school graduation, and wonderful, just incredibly supportive person for me. Now, part of the danger, doing this whole thing, is this isn't really about me. And if you, see things that you think, wow, that's really great, that's really Christ, my Savior, and that's not me as a person. If you see things you don't like, it's probably me, the person. So to put that in perspective. But I want to talk to you today about a really important problem that hasn't really undergone really scientific scrutiny, and that's the problem of malnutrition. And working in Bangladesh for, since really, gosh, more than almost 25 years now, for years I didn't realize that the children that I was studying were malnourished. I think that's partly a phenomenon of a medical school graduate education, where you're really not taught about malnutrition. And this is probably why I didn't realize that the children I was studying were malnourished. That if you look at these 2 boys, if you just looked at Murad, you'd say, well, this is a normal, healthy child, except that Shuvo is the same age as Murad. And you can see that Murad is a head shorter, and he's stunted. And this is our linear growth faltering. This is the commonest manifestation of malnutrition in the developing world. This involves 40% of children in the Indian subcontinent and sub-Saharan Africa. And if you don't know someone's age and how tall they're going to be, you're not even going to realize it. At least I didn't realize that Murad, whose parents gave permission for this photograph to be used, has about a 10-fold increased risk of dying due to an infectious disease. Suffered from impaired motor and cognitive development from malnutrition, and in recent work that we've done, suffers also from oral vaccines being less effective. And so a very, very important problem.